If someone had told me that the guy the first barely noticed at the start of the night would be pressed up against me by morning, whispering things I wouldn't forget for the rest of the year, hell, maybe the rest of my life, I wouldn't have believed them. But that's exactly what happened. The party was mine, technically. Hosted at my apartment, half organized by my best friend Nick, and filled with about 30 people I mostly kind of knew. We decided to do something laid back, which, in practice, meant cheap wine, too much chili cheese dip, and a decent Spotify playlist blasting through my battered Bluetooth speaker. By 10 o'clock, the place was full. People crammed onto my couch, bodies swaying in the kitchen, laughter spilling out the open balcony doors. I was nursing a third drink and pretending not to stress about whether the ice maker would keep up with demand. That's when he walked in. I didn't notice him at first. He came with Lila, one of Nick's coworkers. She was a regular on our friend circuit. Smart, outgoing, always slightly overdressed. The guy on her arm? I hadn't seen him before. He was tall, lean without being wiry, with messy dark hair that looked like he'd tried to tame it and gave up halfway. The sleeves of his navy button-down were rolled to his elbows, and he wore it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Confident, but not loud. Handsome in a way that made you double-take once he smiled. I was in the middle of answering some question about how I knew half the people at the party when my eyes caught him again. He laughed at something Lila said, head tilted back, hand resting lightly on the counter beside her. It wasn't until she moved away that I realized he didn't follow her. Instead, he scanned the room, slowly, deliberately, and then our eyes met. It wasn't anything intense, just a beat. But he held it. Long enough to make my heart stutter in that dumb, involuntary way. Then he raised his drink slightly in my direction and gave me the faintest nod. I think I smiled. I must have. A second later, he turned and started talking to someone else. Nick caught me watching and nudged me in the ribs. "You good? Who's that?" I asked, jerking my chin toward the guy. "Lila's +1, he said. Graham or Grant or something. Met him at one of those annoying networking mixers she drags people to." "Huh. Why?" I shrugged, feeling warm and maybe a little exposed. "No reason." Nick grinned. "You've got that look." "What look?" "The one that says you're 2 drinks away from inventing reasons to talk to him." I rolled my eyes and took a sip. "Shut up." But he wasn't wrong. I didn't go talk to him right away. I kept mingling, rotating between circles, checking on drinks in the kitchen, doing the kind of low-key host duties that let me hover without looking desperate. Every now and then, I'd catch sight of Graham. Yes, I asked someone later, and it was Graham, talking, laughing, occasionally checking his phone, but never seeming in a rush to leave. He wasn't glued to Lila's side either, which was interesting. At around 11:15, the crowd started to buzz louder, anticipation rising with the clock. Someone found noisemakers. Another person passed out those stupid glittery hats that always end up crushed in corners by the end of the night. I was halfway through a conversation about worst New Year's Eve memories when someone touched my elbow. "Hey," a voice said, low and smooth behind me. "You're the host, right?" I turned. Graham. Up close, his eyes were even more distracting. Hazel with specks of green, like he'd been drawn by someone trying to win a prize. "Yeah," I said, managing not to choke. "Well, one of them." He smiled, and it hit me square in the chest. "Thanks for the invite." I wasn't sure what to expect, but it's actually great. "Glad you're enjoying it." He nodded toward the balcony. "You mind if I steal a few minutes out there? Feels like the only place to breathe." "Be my guest," I said. Then, before I could think twice, "I could use some air too." He grinned. "Perfect." We stepped outside together. Into the chill of late December, the city stretched out around us like a living painting. Below, people were already shouting, car horns echoing down the streets in anticipation of the new year. He leaned on the railing, close enough that I could feel his presence, but not so close that it felt weird. Comfortable, natural. "You throw a good party," he said. "You make a good guest." He glanced at me, and this time his smile was a little slower. You do this every year? Some version of it. Started small, got out of hand. I like that it's messy, he said. Real, I laughed. That's just code for you ran out of cups. He chuckled, then was quiet for a moment. You know, Lila said I'd like your place, but I don't think she meant the apartment. I looked at him, and he didn't look away. The thing about eye contact is, once it crosses that invisible line, the one between polite and loaded, it's impossible to unsee. You can't go back to pretending it didn't mean anything, and whatever had just passed between Graham and me on that balcony, it landed with weight. I was still standing there, one hand on the cold metal railing, unsure how to respond without sounding like I'd written this scene in my head 100 times. Oh? I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. Graham smiled, but not the flirty kind he'd been tossing around earlier. This one was quieter, more grounded. You ever meet someone and feel like they're familiar, even if you've never spoken before? That's one hell of a line, I said, because my brain defaulted to sarcasm when my heart started thudding like a jackhammer. He chuckled. Fair. But I didn't mean it as one. I looked out over the city, needing a second. The skyline glittered like it was trying too hard. Somewhere, music was blaring from another rooftop. I could still hear the murmur of the party behind us, muffled through the balcony door. Honestly, I said, I'm kinda surprised you're out here with me. His brow lifted. Why? You came with Lila. He leaned his hip against the railing, facing me now. Yeah, as her +1, not as her date. That threw me for a second. I searched his face for any flicker of doubt or hesitation, but there was none. Just calm certainty. She told me it was a mix of friends and coworkers, he went on. Didn't mention there'd be anyone I'd want to talk to more than her. I huffed a laugh, trying not to grin like a teenager. And yet, here you are. Here I am. We fell quiet for a moment. But it wasn't awkward. If anything, it was comfortable. A stillness I hadn't realized I needed. My shoulders relaxed without me meaning to. So, he said eventually, are you seeing anyone? I blinked. Subtlety clearly wasn't his thing. No, I replied. I mean, no, I'm not. He nodded, as if confirming something to himself. That's good. Is it? For me, yeah. I looked at him again. Really looked. His posture was loose, but his eyes were focused. He didn't fidget. Didn't try to fill the silence with noise or jokes. He just waited. Okay, I said finally. What is this? What do you want it to be? That did it. I laughed. Short, a little breathless, more nervous than I wanted to admit. You don't waste time, do you? I used to, he said. Got me nowhere. There was something in his voice that made me pause. Something that felt a little bruised. Before I could ask, the balcony door opened behind us. There you are, Lila's voice rang out, bright and tipsy. She stepped out holding 2 plastic champagne flutes, her heels clicking against the tile. Graham, I was looking for you. Oh, hey. She gave me a once-over and smiled, then offered the drinks. You guys hiding out here for the final countdown? Something like that, Graham said, taking 1 flute. His voice didn't change, but I noticed how he stepped slightly in front of me. Not possessive, but protective. You should come back in, Lila said, already heading back toward the door. I think someone's about to do that dumb speech thing. As soon as the door clicked shut behind her, Graham turned back to me. You good? He asked. Yeah, I said, even though my stomach was buzzing. He looked down at the drink in his hand, then back up. If this is weird for you, I can back off. I shook my head. It's not weird. Just unexpected. Unexpected isn't bad. No, it's not. He stepped closer. Not a lot, maybe a foot, but enough that the air between us shifted. "What's your name?" he asked, and I realized I'd never told him. "Eli." He smiled again. "Nice to officially meet you, Eli." "And your Graham?" "Guilty." I smiled back. "So what happens now?" He glanced through the glass into the apartment. People were gathering near the TV, someone pointing at the screen. "Looks like we've got 3 minutes left in this year," he said. "You want to spend them in there or out here with me?" I looked at him, really looked. At the curve of his mouth, the line of his jaw, the warmth behind those eyes that had found me in a room full of people. I stepped closer. "Out here's good." He didn't say anything, just nodded once, as if he'd expected that answer all along. And so we stood side by side, leaning against the railing, the countdown building behind us. At 10 seconds, the door opened again, and the party's collective voice started shouting, 10, 9. I turned to Graham. He was already watching me. 8, 7. "Do you always pick someone at the end of the year to shake things up?" I asked. "First time," he said. 6, 5. I swallowed, pulse skittering. "Me too." 4, 3. He reached out then, hand brushing mine, fingers curling gently. 2. I didn't pull away. 1. And just like that, 2024 became 2025. The cheers erupted inside. Glasses clinked. Music jumped to something fast and messy, and streamers popped. But none of that touched the balcony, because in that exact moment, Graham leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't aggressive or overly smooth. Just lips meeting lips, warm breath, the quiet spark of something we didn't have a name for yet. But we both felt it. When he pulled back, his forehead rested lightly against mine. "Happy New Year," he said. I smiled. "Yeah, it is." The funny thing about New Year's kisses is that they're usually forgettable. Sloppy, rushed, done for the sake of tradition or a story later. But this wasn't that. When Graham kissed me, there was no countdown left, no cameras pointed our way, no laughter or shouts or clinking flutes. Just us, outside, a little drunk on wine and something more dangerous. The city buzzed below. My apartment thumped with renewed energy. But we stayed on the balcony. Neither of us said anything for a few seconds. We just stood there, our breath visible in the cold, hands still lightly touching. I felt weirdly calm. Like whatever this was, it didn't need to be rushed. "I've wanted to do that since I saw you across the room," Graham said eventually, his voice low. "I wanted you to," I admitted, surprised by how easy it felt to say out loud. He smiled at that, not cocky, just pleased. "Guess we both got what we wanted." I laughed, maybe a little nervously. "Now what?" "Well," he said, brushing his fingers across mine again, "we could go back in and awkwardly pretend nothing happened. Or, not really in the mood to pretend." "Good, me neither." He looked at me for a second, like he was weighing something. "You want to talk somewhere quieter?" he asked. "I mean inside, but not like in the middle of that." He nodded toward the party. "You're not worried about Lila?" "She brought me as a +1, not a date. She's not going to be mad." He paused. "I told her I was gay when we met. She just figured it was her turn to play matchmaker." I blinked. "So, she brought you here thinking?" He shrugged. "She didn't say it outright, but she mentioned your name more than once before we left her place." I let that sink in. "That little," I laughed, shaking my head. "Sneaky genius. Right?" "All right," I said. "Come on, my room's quieter." I led him through the mess of bodies and noise, past drunk partygoers clumsily dancing in the kitchen, and people cheering at nothing in particular. Nick spotted me as I passed and raised an eyebrow. I didn't even bother explaining, just nodded once, and his smirk said I knew it. Once we got to my room, I closed the door behind us. The noise faded just enough to feel distant. Graham looked around, taking it in. Small room, nothing fancy. Books stacked on a wobbly nightstand. Half-finished laundry pile in the corner I now wished I'd handled earlier. But he didn't seem to care. "You live here alone?" "No, with Nick. He's got the bigger room but shares a wall with the kitchen, so I win when it comes to sleep." He grinned, sitting on the edge of my bed. "This is nice, quiet. Bit of a mess. I like messes. They're honest." I leaned against the door for a moment, watching him. "This isn't how I thought tonight would go," I said. He looked up at me, serious now. "Is it a bad surprise?" "No. It's just," I hesitated. "I don't usually meet people like this, people I actually want to know." He nodded slowly, like he understood what I meant without needing it spelled out. "Yeah, same." He patted the bed beside him. "Come sit?" I did. We sat in silence for a bit, shoulders close, my heart slowly coming down from whatever high it had been on all night. I felt grounded, and that scared me a little. "You live around here?" I asked, needing something normal to say. "Couple neighborhoods over. Just moved last fall." "What do you do?" "Freelance web design. Mostly boring stuff. Menus for restaurants, landing pages for startups. I like the quiet of it." "And Lila?" "She's dating one of my old roommates. They broke up, stayed friends. I kept her in the split." I laughed. "Good call." He turned to me slightly. "What about you?" "Project manager. Tech firm. I make sure overworked developers don't miss deadlines and that our product team doesn't implode. Glamorous stuff." He grinned. "You look like you're good at that. At imploding? At making things work." Something about that made my chest tighten. I looked down, my knee bouncing before I even realized it. "Sorry," I said, still kind of nervous. He reached over, gently rested a hand on my knee. "You don't have to be." I looked at him. "You sure you're not just drunk and charming?" "Little bit drunk. The charming part's real." I laughed again. I couldn't help it. He leaned in, slow and unhurried, giving me time to pull back if I wanted to. I didn't. Our lips met again. Softer this time. More deliberate. There was something reverent in the way he kissed me, like he was reading a language we'd just started speaking. When we finally pulled apart, we stayed close, foreheads touching. "I don't do one-night things," I said quietly. "Not that I'm assuming anything. If that's what you're after." "I'm not," he said, already shaking his head. "This doesn't feel like that." It didn't, not even close. There was a knock at the door. Then Nick's voice, muffled but smug. "Just checking you haven't been kidnapped. Also, champagne's gone." "Not now," I called back. "Copy that. You owe me dip, by the way." Graham chuckled. "He's great." "He's annoying," I corrected. "But yeah, he is." He turned to me again, brushing a thumb along my jaw. "Can I stay a bit longer?" "You can stay as long as you want." And I meant it. We didn't do anything wild that night. No clothes flew off, no breathless moans or tangled limbs under the sheets. That's what people expect from a New Year's hookup, right? Fast, urgent, barely remembered. But this wasn't that. Graham didn't feel like a stranger. And I didn't want to rush it. We lay on my bed, still fully dressed, our shoulders pressed together as we stared at the ceiling. The sounds of the party had started to fade, people filtering out. The chaotic laughter replaced with quieter goodbyes, and the occasional thud of someone knocking over an empty bottle. "Do you believe in resolutions?" he asked suddenly, his voice soft in the dark. "Not really," I said. "They feel fake, like lying to yourself with extra steps." "Yeah," he said. "I used to make a bunch. Quick coffee, be more productive, run every day. I'd last maybe 3 weeks." "You seem like a runner." He turned his head toward me, smirking. What does that even mean? Lean, confident, like you own a pair of shoes just for trails. He laughed. Okay, you got me, I do, but I haven't worn them in months. Why not? Got into a slump last fall, he said, and I could hear something shift in his tone. Job stuff fell through. Moved cities. Ended a thing that wasn't going anywhere. I guess I stopped doing things that made me feel good. I turned toward him, too. But you came tonight. He smiled. Yeah, I guess that was a little resolution adjacent. To what? To stop waiting for shit to get better. On its own. There was a long silence between us then, but it wasn't awkward. It was the kind of quiet that only happens when two people are finally letting their guards down. I reached out, my fingers brushing his, where our hands rested between us. I think that's a good one, I said. He intertwined his fingers with mine. What about you? What about me? What would your resolution be? If you made one. I thought about it for a second. To stop assuming nothing good can last. He didn't respond right away. He just squeezed my hand. Eventually he said, You know I don't live that far from here. I don't know anything about you except your name, your job, and that you own running shoes. He let out a breath, like a laugh and a sigh at once. Okay, that's fair. Want the extended cut? Give me the director's commentary. Well, he started, I'm originally from Bend, Oregon, moved to the city for work after college. Came out when I was 22. My family was not thrilled. It's gotten better, but I'm still closer to friends than blood. I freelance now because my last agency gig imploded, and I didn't want to answer to someone else for a while. I nodded. That tracks. What about you? Only child. My mom calls every Sunday. My dad sends weird birthday cards that are always at least 3 months late. I used to want to be a writer, but I didn't want to starve. So now I organize the people who make apps that help other people organize themselves. Graham laughed. That's painfully millennial. Right? My student loans weep in solidarity. We kept talking, trading tiny pieces of our lives like old coins. Music still thumped faintly through the walls, but we were in our own little orbit. Then, after a while, he asked, So what happens now? I guess we do the adult thing and exchange numbers instead of pretending this never happened. Deal. He reached for his phone and handed it to me. Put yourself in. I typed my name in, added an emoji I hoped didn't make me look like an idiot, and passed it back. Text me tomorrow, I said. I'll text you tonight. He replied, You mean later today? He looked at the clock. Shit, you're right. It was 2:11 a.m. He sat up. I should head out. Lila left a while ago, but she said she'd text me an Uber code. I nodded. I didn't want him to go, but I also didn't want to seem clingy. As we stood, he touched my elbow. This doesn't have to be the end of it. It won't be, I said. He kissed me again at the door, not rushed, not dramatic, just enough to say, We're not done. Then he was gone. I stood in the silence of my room, heart full in a way I hadn't expected when the night began. I looked at my phone. Already a text from him. Graham, so when can I see you again? It's always weird waking up the morning after a party in your own apartment. You're home, but nothing feels quite normal yet. There's glitter stuck to your socks. Your fridge is half empty and smells faintly like Prosecco and salsa. And someone's left behind a single earring on your windowsill, for reasons unknown. I padded into the living room around 9:30 a.m., still in sweatpants, my head cloudy but not hungover. Nick was already up, sitting on the couch with a coffee mug and a smug look. Well, 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 he said without looking away from his phone. Look who didn't sleep alone. I rolled my eyes and collapsed into the chair across from him. He didn't stay over. Oh, then why'd I hear the distinct sound of quiet kissing and the door opening at 2:30? I covered my face with a groan. Because you're a nosy little goblin. That goblin watched you make hard eyes at a man all night. You're lucky I didn't live stream it. I peeked through my fingers. You liked him? I do not like him. He didn't talk about cryptocurrency or quote Joe Rogan, so he cleared the minimum threshold. Plus, you were smiling like a dork every time he said your name. He only said my name like 3 times. Exactly. That's how effective it was. I flipped him off and shuffled to the kitchen to make coffee. My phone buzzed just as I was adding cream. I already knew who it was. Graham. Good morning, handsome. I didn't sleep at all. Hope your day's starting better than mine. I stared at the message for a second, heart doing that fluttery thing again. I tried to play it cool with my reply. Me. Technically better, because mine involved coffee and not insomnia. Want to fix that with brunch? He texted back in less than a minute. Graham, name the place and time. I'm already dressed. For you, I might even shave. Me. Don't. I like the scruff. I booked a table at a brunch spot 3 blocks away. Mid-price, decent eggs, strong coffee. I picked that one not because it was the best, but because it was the kind of place where you could sit across from someone and look at them without feeling like the world was staring back. By the time I got there, Graham was already outside, leaning against the brick wall in a dark coat and scarf, hands stuffed into his pockets. He straightened when he saw me and smiled. Hi, he said. Hi, I replied, unable to stop the smile from pulling at my mouth. We hugged. No awkward hesitation, no weird arm placement. He smelled like soap and something clean and woodsy. I wanted to bury my face in his neck. Inside, we got seated at a small table by the window. The waitress gave us both coffee and a basket of muffins we didn't ask for. We sipped quietly for a few minutes. It wasn't tense. It was that kind of good quiet, like when you both know there's more to come and don't need to rush it. Did you sleep at all? I asked. Maybe 3 hours, he said. I kept replaying last night. I looked at him over my mug. In a good way? He tilted his head. You tell me, am I here because I'm a masochist or because I like you? I guess that depends on whether the eggs are good. He laughed and reached across the table, brushing the back of my hand. You're not what I expected. Is that a good thing? It's the best thing. We talked for 2 hours. About small things, our mutual dislike of small talk, how he always takes the stairs 2 at a time, how I alphabetize my books and then get mad when people put them back wrong. We found out we both liked the same niche podcast and once got food poisoning from the same taco truck, 6 months apart. He told me about a guy he dated a year ago who ghosted him after a weekend trip. I told him about the last time I liked someone who didn't like me back. Somewhere between our second round of coffee and splitting a cinnamon roll, I realized something. This didn't feel like meeting someone. It felt like catching up with someone I already knew, someone I had just forgotten for a while. After the check, we stood outside in the cold for a minute. The city moved around us. Cars, voices, wind, but it felt backgrounded. I don't want this to be one of those things that starts strong and fizzles, I said, maybe too abruptly. Graham didn't flinch. Then don't let it, I blinked. That's it? Yeah, he said simply. I've spent too much time chasing the wrong people. You? You showed up right in front of me. I'm not trying to mess it up. I like you, I said, just to get it out of my chest. He smiled. Yeah, I got that part. Then he kissed me. Right there on the street. Not dramatic, not hungry. Just enough to make my chest go warm, to make me forget it was barely above freezing. I'll text you tonight, he said. You better. As I watched him walk away, hands back in his pockets, I realized I wasn't worried about what came next. Because this time, it didn't feel temporary. The weeks that followed were the kind I didn't trust at first. Too easy, too good. The kind of good that makes you look over your shoulder wondering when the rug is going to get yanked out from under you. But the rug never moved. Graham didn't ghost. He didn't get busy after a few dates or slowly fade into a texting black hole. He called, he texted, he showed up. 1 week after brunch, he invited me over to his apartment. It was small, clean, and had real plants, like actual thriving green photosynthesizing plants. His bookshelf was all tech manuals, travel journals, and a worn-out copy of The Little Prince that he admitted to rereading once a year just to cry like a person. We cooked dinner together that night. Well, he cooked. I chopped vegetables and tried not to ruin the vibes by admitting I had no idea how to mince garlic properly. We talked through dinner, and then afterward, sitting on his couch, our legs tangled under a throw blanket, he looked at me like he was about to say something serious. "I want to be intentional about this," he said, voice low. I tilted my head. "About what?" "You and me. Whatever this is becoming." My heart skipped, then stuttered like it didn't know how to land properly. "You mean like dating? Exclusively?" "Yeah," he said, nodding. "Unless you're not into that." No, I said quickly, cutting him off. "I'm into that. I just wasn't sure when was the right time to bring it up." He grinned. "Now works." So we became a thing. It was weird, at first, having someone consistently there. Someone who texted good morning and meant it. Someone who showed up with soup when I got sick and took my car to get my oil changed when I kept putting it off. I had dated before. But not like this. Not with someone who made me feel like my presence was a comfort, not a compromise. We didn't rush into anything, but little routines started to form. Wednesday night takeout, Sunday morning bookstore runs, midweek coffee drop-offs at my office when I had back-to-back meetings. I learned that he hummed when he did dishes and left his shoes by the door like a polite guest, even when he'd stayed the night 3 times that week. And slowly, it started to feel like something I could count on. It wasn't until late February that we hit our first speed bump. Nothing dramatic. Just one of those moments where you realize the person you're with doesn't experience the world the same way you do. We were sitting in my apartment, both of us working on laptops. It was a quiet Saturday, rain pattering against the windows, a candle burning on the coffee table, comfortably silent. Then I got a text from my mom. "Happy Saturday! Don't forget we have lunch next weekend with your aunt. And let me know if that boy you mentioned is coming too, smiley face." I laughed quietly and showed Graham the text. He smiled, but something about it felt tight. "What's up?" I asked. He set his laptop aside. "Nothing, just, your family knows about me?" "Yeah," I said slowly. "I mean, not everything, but they know I'm seeing someone. I told them your name." "Why?" He shifted, adjusting the way he sat. "I don't really talk to my family about any of this." "That's okay," I said quickly. "You don't have to." I wasn't trying to. "No, I know," he said. "It's not you. It's just weird, seeing how casual it is for you. My mom hasn't even met anyone I've dated. And my dad," he shook his head. "He pretends I'm single and very devoted to work." I nodded slowly. "I get that. I don't want you to feel like I'm hiding you." "I don't," I said, reaching for his hand. "Everyone has their own pace. I'm not trying to rush you into family dinners." He looked relieved. "Thanks. I just didn't want that to become a thing between us." "It won't. Unless you start pretending I don't exist," I added with a grin. "Then I guess I'll just have to keep you very real." And he did. He introduced me to 2 of his closest friends the following weekend. We went out for tacos and beer, and they grilled me playfully about everything from my worst date story to whether I snored. I denied it. Graham betrayed me. That night, as we walked back to my place under the quiet buzz of city lights, he took my hand and said, "I know this isn't fast, but it's right." I squeezed his hand. "I don't need fast. I just need real." And it stayed real. Weeks turned into months. He started leaving a toothbrush at my place. I cleared a drawer for him without making a big deal out of it. He noticed when I was quiet, and I started to recognize the way his shoulders stiffened when he had a bad day. It was soft, steady, good, and I wasn't used to good, but I was starting to believe in it. By the time spring showed up, slow and sloppy, like it had just rolled out of bed, Graham and I had settled into something that felt close to home. Not the kind of home you move into with a Pinterest board and overpriced throw pillows. The real kind. Messy, quiet, lived in. He kept showing up, and I kept making space for him. It was subtle at first. A second toothbrush, a pair of socks in my laundry that I never bought, his favorite cereal in my pantry even though I didn't like it. Then it turned into mornings where I didn't wake up alone, and nights where he was brushing his teeth while I queued up whatever show we'd pretend not to fall asleep during. Some nights we didn't even talk much, just existed together. His head on my chest, my fingers in his hair, our breaths sinking without trying. It didn't feel new anymore, and that's what made it feel real. But nothing stays perfect forever. It happened on a Thursday. The day was fine. Work had been a little hectic, but nothing catastrophic. I got home, dumped my bag by the door, and found Graham already there. He'd let himself in. I'd given him a key 2 weeks earlier, after hours of fake casual conversation, and both of us trying not to make it a thing. He was on the couch with his laptop and a half-empty glass of wine. "Hey," he said, looking up. "Hey." I kissed the top of his head and dropped beside him. Something in his posture was off. Tense. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "You okay?" He hesitated. "My mom called today." "Yeah?" She asked if I was dating anyone. I watched his face, trying not to jump ahead. "What did you say?" He shut the laptop and set it aside. I told her no. My chest tightened. "Okay," I said. "I meant for it to come out neutral." It didn't. "I didn't mean it like..." He stopped, exhaled. "I didn't mean it like I'm not dating you. I froze. I've never told her about anyone. It's always been easier to let her think I'm just busy." "Busy?" I echoed. He looked at me. "I know how that sounds. It sounds like you don't want her to know about me. That's not true." "Then what is it?" He rubbed his hands over his face. "It's fear. Stupid, old fear. And I hate that it still has this much control over me." I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say that wouldn't come out sharp. "I don't want you to think I'm ashamed of you," he added quickly, "because I'm not. At all. You're the best thing to happen to me in a long time. But not something you can say out loud yet." He flinched, like the words hit harder than I intended. "I'm trying." I nodded slowly. I believed him, but that didn't make it hurt less. "I just need you to be honest with me," I said. "If this is all the farther it can go, if I'm always going to be the person you don't mention on the phone, I need to know now. It's not." "You're sure?" He looked at me. "Yes, but I also can't promise I'm going to fix it overnight." "That's not what I need," I said. "I just need to know you're going to." He took my hand. "I am." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "Okay." We didn't talk much the rest of the night. We made dinner in silence, the kind of silence that's not angry, just tired. We ate on the couch. We watched a movie we didn't finish. But when we went to bed, he curled into me like he always did. And when I woke up, his arm was still around me. 3 days later, he told her. He called me right after. "She didn't yell," he said, voice shaking. "She didn't cry. She just said, 'Okay, thanks for telling me.' And then she asked if I'd bring you to dinner next month." I didn't say anything for a second. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I don't know yet, but I think I will be." I smiled. "I'm proud of you." "Yeah?" "Yeah." There was a pause. Then, "I love you." It came out of him like it had been sitting there for weeks, waiting for its cue. I blinked. "Say it again." "I love you." I laughed, soft and stupid. "You weren't supposed to say it first." "Well, too bad." I bit my lip. "I love you too." I didn't know what I thought I was getting into when I let that stranger into my party on New Year's Eve. He wasn't even invited. He just showed up with someone else. But by the time spring cracked open, the guy who walked in as a +1 had become the person I was building a life with. One quiet, real, imperfect day at a time. And the weirdest part, it didn't feel like a surprise anymore. It felt exactly right. By the time December rolled around again, we were still us. Still brunching too late on Sundays. Still folding each other's laundry and fighting over thermostat settings. Still saying love you too often and not often enough, depending on the day. We didn't move in together officially, at least not in the lease signed, drawers emptied way. But half his stuff lived at mine, and his plants somehow migrated to my windowsills, like they knew where the sun was better. Every Sunday night, we fell asleep in the same bed. Every Monday morning, we kissed goodbye with varying degrees of morning breath and half-zipped coats. And then New Year's came around again. This time, it was our party. We hosted it together, our names on the invite, our combined playlists, our shared panic over whether we had enough toilet paper. Nick showed up early, smug as always, and made a toast about how, statistically speaking, 1 in 3 New Year's parties ends in a relationship, and he'd like full credit for this one. Lila came too. When she walked in, she pulled me into a hug and whispered, "So I was right." "You were," I admitted. "About everything," she beamed. "I want to be best man at your wedding." "Chill, I'm manifesting." Graham spent most of the night by my side, not in a clingy way. He floated from group to group, charming the hell out of everyone, topping off drinks and remembering people's names. But he always came back to me, touched my back as he passed, pressed a kiss to my temple while I laughed at Nick's dumb jokes. He was mine, and I was his, and everyone knew it. At 11:50, we slipped out to the balcony again. Just like last year, the city stretched out below, all glitter and buzz and cold air. But this time, I wasn't alone, wondering if he'd find me. He was already next to me. "You remember this?" I asked. He grinned. "It's where I seduced you. You showed up uninvited. And now I'm legally obligated to bring dip to every party for the rest of my life." We laughed, shoulder to shoulder, hearts beating a little faster as the countdown began. From inside, the crowd shouted, 10, 9. Graham turned to me, eyes warm. "Thank you for saying yes to that balcony chat." 8, 7, I smiled. "Thank you for stealing my party." 6, he leaned in. 5. "I didn't steal it," he whispered. "I just found what I didn't know I needed." 4, our foreheads touched. 3, 2, "I love you," I whispered. 1, and then, again, right on cue, the new year began with his kiss. Not our first, not our last, but still somehow perfect.